Hello guys, so I am Kush and this is Dhruv. We are here today to summarize the game manual 2 of the FTC Center Stage competition in Jan in India and the next stage international in Texas, Houston. Why are we doing this? First of all, many of the rookie teams, including us, do not have that well of an idea about about the game manuals 1 and 2. That's why when we summarize a game manual like this, it gets easier for everyone to understand it in a jiffy. Now we are going to start with the game manual. The first subsection is introduction.
So
Dhruv,
whatever we're going to be telling you in this game manual is everything that you need to know for the first tech challenge competition this season center stage. So this season is the 2023 to 24 season called center stage, which involves picking and placing of pixels and launching of other game elements like drones as well. Now, every year, FIRST releases these kind of tech challenges, which students are supposed to solve by building a small robot. And to learn more, you can visit the FIRST website to look at the past events and the future ones as well.
coming on to the second subsection, gracious professionalism. So, gracious professionalism is a phrase that has been copyrighted by First, and it basically means when you're about to do something, suppose this competition, when you're preparing for this competition, we make sure to give your best and stay professional and not gain a sense of achievement right before winning the thing. The gracious professionalism, in textbook terms, is a way of doing things that encourages high quality work. Basically, give your 100% to everything, and it emphasizes the value of others and respects individuals in the community. For more information about gracious professionalism, you can visit the first YouTube channel, and they have a short video there with Dr. Woody Flowers.
Now, this document is a resource that will be available for all team resources, and all the teams are expected to go through every single line of this entire documentation. And in this video, we're going to be making it easier for you to understand everything in simpler terms as well. And whatever is highlighted in italics is given in the definitions list in 4.3. Now, moving on to the game.
Okay, coming on to subsection 4. So, subsection 4 is basically the main subsection, you could say. It contains all of the resources and rules which you will need for the center stage competition. So, subsection 4, 4.1 is basically an introduction to the game, to this season of 2023 to 2024. It is it includes all the materials that you can access from this link right here. This link will also be in the description down below. This also refers to the game manual 1 for the traditional events, which contains all general rules and facts for the competition. Moving over to 4.2.
Now, there's a few illustrations of the field here, and that will give you a brief idea of how the actual play field is going to be on the competition day. And whatever is going to be mentioned ahead, especially in the rules section, like game specific rules, you can refer to this illustration. We'll be linking these down in the description. Do check those out for a better understanding. Now, there's alliance stations and human player stations on either side of the playfield. There's backdrops and backstages at the back of the playfield. There's landing zones at the front, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and then the audience. And then the middle one is a 12 by 12 feet playing a field covered with mats. Now, moving on to gameplay overview. So, there's two alliances, red and blue. Like in many sports as well, First Tech Challenge is also a sport which has two alliances competing against each other, Alliance Red and Alliance Blue. The match starts off with a 30-second autonomous period where the robot is expected to control its own motion with either a pre-programmed code or with sensors or cameras that make the robot understand what's there around it. And there's various methods to score points in the autonomous period, such as placing a purple pixel on the spike mark with the team prop. That will fetch you 20 points. And then placing a yellow pixel on the backdrop. There's three spike marks, and one of them will have the team prop. So each of the spike marks has a location: left, center, and right. So according to the spike mark, which has the team prop or a pixel, you're supposed to place the yellow pixel on the side of the Aruko marker or an April tag, these terms, get those 10 points.
These spike marks will represent left, center, and right. If your robot does manage to place a pixel where the object on the spike mark shows or indicates, and your robot does manage to place a yellow pixel on the backboard corresponding to the object on the spike mark, you will gain extra points. And that's why it will be a great advantage to the robot if it manages to do that. Dhruv, please continue.
Also, be sure to use a team prop because that will fetch you 10 extra points as compared to a white pixel on the spike mark. After the autonomous period, there's a 2-minute driver control period where robots can earn points by many criteria. And the transition from the autonomous period to the driver period, you will be provided with 5 to 8 seconds where at the end there'll be a countdown: 3, 2, 1, go, where the drivers can then press start on their driver hub and then start controlling the robot with their game. Now, there's some methods of scoring. We'll link all of them down in the description as well. Now, some methods are creating mosaics of identical colors. Mosaics are basically like three triangles that you make patterns all across the backdrop with mosaics that fetch you extra points. Then there's placing pixels on the backdrop gives you 5 points, and pushing them into the backstage gives you 3 points. And then there's scoring pixels above the set lines on the backdrop. So these are basically the lines you see on the backdrop. That is the first line, second line, third line. That's basically to measure how high you've gone in scoring. And the final 30 seconds of the driver control period would be termed the end game, where there'll be extra ways to earn points. The two extra ways are either suspending your robot on the robot rig on the truss rigging, where your robot should not be in contact with the ground. Park the robot in the backstage as well. It should be in your own alliance though, because if it's of the opposite alliance, it may fetch you a penalty. And you can even launch a drone, and depending on the zone it lands in, 1, 2, or 3, you get 30, 20, and 10 points respectively. Then there's gameplay technology, where every year first allows you to use various technologies. For example, the April tag system was introduced last year with Power Play, where there were April tags on cones that help you detect them easier. So technology like April tags make visioning easier. That makes the autonomous period really, really easy. So I would recommend you to use these kind of technologies, especially for the autonomous period. Robots can also use TensorFlow technology, that's basically used for machine learning and object detection, to detect their own team prop. It is really easy to set up. You just need to code it properly and provide the adequate data. That way, the robot can easily detect your team prop. Moving on to 4.3, there's some important definitions you need to know for this season, and they'll be mentioned a lot from now on.
Thank you, Dhruv. So, as Dhruv mentioned, 4.3 are important game definitions. All of these definitions seen as a capital first letter and italicized throughout the manual. So, if any of the words used in the manual are confusing, they might be mentioned here. There are tens of hundreds of words in this, but I and Dhruv have shortened their definitions for easier understanding. Let's start with the first word. The first word is alliance. An alliance is basically a group of two teams. So two teams will play together, and two alliances compete against each other, designated as red or blue to gain the most amounts of points. We already stated this in the previous subsections. Coming on to Alliance Station, the designated red or blue Alliance area next to the playing field where the drive team stands or moves within during the match. So this is basically a rectangular place for the whole team to stand and control the robot. There are April tags. They are a visual system which help to guide the robot in the autonomous period. So there are three April tags on the backdrop and two on the audience side of the field. This is to help the robot to guide itself around the arena during the autonomous period. Then there's the area. This area is basically the main field where the robots will battle each other. It can be identified by vertical walls which are there on the sides. Coming on to autonomous period, as Dhruv mentioned, it is a 30-second period in which the robot can only react to sensor inputs and pre-programmed commands. Next is the backdrop. So a backdrop is a slanting structure at the back of the arena on which robots have to place pixels to gain points. There are two of these backdrops, one for each of the alliance. This is also called alliance specific. Now, you can call backdrop as alliance specific since there's one for each alliance. Coming on to backstage, this is also an alliance specific element. It's an alliance specific area under the backdrop. It is defined by a 1-inch thick tape and is 72 inches by 23 inches in size. So it is a rectangular area just near the backdrop where the robots have to park in order to gain extra points at the end of the autonomous period. Then come to block/blocking. The definition for this is preventing an opposing alliance robot from accessing an area or game element for an extended period by obstructing all paths of travel to the objective area. So basically, if a robot blocks a pixel by surrounding it or like driving over it, then it's called blocking because it's preventing the other robot from picking it up. Then after blocking is control slash controlling. If an object is following the movement of the robot, it is considered as being controlled by the robot. Objects being controlled by the robot are considered as part of a robot. So this is very straightforward. Anything that is moving in sync with the robot is assumed as a part of the robot in this competition. Then is disabled. A robot that is no longer active for the remainder of the match due to a robot failure or by the request of a referee. Only a referee can declare if a robot is disabled or not. Then coming on to disqualification. So a team that is ineligible to compete in a match. This is pretty straightforward again. The drive team. So this drive team is the one that will stand in the area assigned to the team. So it has in total four representatives, two drivers, one human player, and one coach from the team. Then the driver. The driver is a student that will control the robot. Now this driver will be identified by a driver badge or an identifying marker depending upon the organizer of the competition. After the driver, there's the driver control period. So this is the 2-minute match time in which the drivers operate the robots. So basically, as Dhruv stated before. Then there's the driver station. So this is the station where the robot can be fixed, kind of like a pit stop. So like hardware and first supplied softwares used by a drive team to control the robot during a match. So the team can have hardware and like etc. Like on the hand things in that station in case anything breaks. Then there's the drone, a paper airplane scoring element built built and supplied by a team. So this drone, again, as Dhruv stated, this can help you on points if it lands in the landing zones. Then is the end game. This is the last 30 seconds of the 2-minute driver control period. In this end game, there are a few more ways of earning points than the driver control periods. For example, the robot can launch drones and the robot can also earn points for hanging from the trusses. Then is the game element. Any item robots interact with to play the game. Game elements for this year is pixels, backdrops, trusses, stage door. rigging, steam prop, and the drone. Grasp, securely holding an object. So this is basically, this also comes under controlling an object. If you grasp the object, it will come under controlling the object. Then is herding. Herding means pushing a scoring element to a location that gains a strategic advantage. So basically like pushing a scoring element around the field. Then is the human player, a student team member responsible for handling scoring elements and identified by wearing a competition supplied human player badge or identification marker. This human player is similar to the driver since he will also stand in the designated driver station. He will be in charge of placing the pixels inside the arena whenever required. After the human player, there is interference. Interference is interaction between opposing lines robots that amplifies the difficulty of scoring action. Uh, Actions that constitute interference should not be considered illegal except as specified by a game rule. So this interference is basically when one robot makes it more difficult for another robot of the opposing alliance to score a point. This is not illegal unless anything is done which is against the game rules. Then comes the landing zones. These are alliance neutral zones, which means there is only which means there are not different zones for each alliance. There are only three singular zones in which both the alliances have to launch their drones. So they are on the audience side of the playing field wall, and there are three of these. The three are landing zone 1, 2, and 3. So each of them is a 144-inch wide and 24-inch deep area, which is which are stacked in front of each other. So as Dhruv stated, there are 30, 20, and 10 points for the landing zone 1, 2, and 3 respectively. Then is the match. So a match is basically a competition between two alliances. Matches have three periods, a 30-second autonomous period, a 2-minute driver control period, which includes a 30-second endgame at the end. Additionally, there's a 8-second break between the autonomous and driver control period. Coming on to a mosaic. So a mosaic is a cluster of three non-white pixels scored on a backdrop. There are a bunch of rules that identify if a mosaic really counts as a mosaic and extra points shall be awarded or not. You can read the rules on the screen, which are on the screen right now. Then we come to parked/parked. This is when a robot or a drone is motionless. So when your robot stops moving, it is considered parked. Penalty. Penalty is the consequence imposed for a rule or procedure violation that is identified by a referee. When a penalty occurs, points will be added to the non-offering team score. Then inside penalty only, there are two types of cards that the referee can give you. The both are yellow and red cards. So in addition to the rule violations explicitly listed in section 4.5, yellow and red cards are used in FTC to manage team and robot behavior that does not align with the mission of FIRST. So the yellow this paragraph also states that the yellow and red cards are not only limited to the competition area or when the competition is happening. They teams that show egregious behavior like outside the competition also, like in the stands or in the pit area, they can be issued a yellow or a red card. Next is the possessing. Uh, okay. Next is the possessing. All these points which I have skipped right here, they are basically just elements or like a part of the arena which you don't really need to know the exact definition of. That's why I've directly jumped to possess. So an object An object is possessed by a robot if as the robot moves or changes orientation, the object remains in approximately the same position relative to the object to the robot. Objects possessed by the robot are considered to be controlled. So this is kind of like a object being controlled by the robot, but here the object may stay in the same position relative to the robot even if the robot changes its orientation. Next is the preload. The preload is a game element that a drive team positions during pre-match setup so that it touches a robot or is possessed by a robot at the start of the autonomous period. So this may include a drone, a purple pixel, and a yellow pixel. Next, we come on to propel/propelling, giving game elements enough force such that they move independent of contact with the robot or human player, basically throwing an object across the arena. Then is the queuing area, a place where drive teams, robots, and option and optional robot transportational carts are stored. So basically, where all the miscellaneous stuff can be kept. Uh, and then rigging parts of the truss from which robots can suspend. Basically, for the extra points at the end in the end game, robots may hang from the rigging, and if they successfully hang without having contact with the ground, the alliance will be gifted extra points. Robot. So the robot is a robot that has passed robot inspection, and the drive team places this on the field prior to the match. So this is the main mechanism which will be representing the team. Then rolling, propelling game elements along the playing field door. So basically like controlling an element, but instead of grasping it, just pushing it through. Then is score/scoring. The robot earns points for the alliance by interacting with the scoring elements and going to areas on the field. There are three types of scoring that can be done. First is scored as completed. So this means this means that the score is added when the task is successful. The very simple. The next is the scoring at the end of the period. So based on the position of robot or scoring element at the end of the period. This is suppose after the autonomous period, if the robot is parked in the backstage, then points will be gifted. Then there's scoring at rest based on the position of the robot and or scoring elements when the entire field has come to a rest after a period. This is also really straightforward. Then there is the set bonus. It is a score achieved by the robot when they place pixels that cross the bottom edge of a set line. So this is also a way of earning points. So you'll get 10 points per the tape line the pixel touches. Then next after set line is the spike mark. So a spike mark is a line on the backdrop that indicates a height achievement. Uh, sorry, a spike mark is a 1 inch by 12-inch long tape line. There are three spike marks in each of the tiles B2, B4, E2, and E4. They are positioned on the left, center, and right of the tiles from the corresponding alliance station perspective. So this also, as Dhruv and I explained, the spike marks will also randomly have a white pixel uh, or a team prop which can help the team gain more points. Then comes the stage door. So this is a hinged door at the center of the field which can be opened by the robots in order to pass. So uh, this is basically a barrier in the middle of the arena, and will have to be lifted by the robots in order to pass. One catch is that robots cannot restrict the movement of this door because that is not allowed in the game rules, and a penalty will be issued. A student. So a student is a person who does not who has not completed high school, secondary school, or the comparable level as of September 1st prior to the season kickoff. So then there's the support slash supported, there's support slash supported slash completely supported. So uh, an object is supported by another object if the second object is bearing at least some of the weight of the first object. This is basically if a pixel is supporting another object, if majority weight of the other pixel is being put on the first pixel, then it is counted as as supported or completely supported. Then is the team prop. The team prop is a team designed and supplied game element which is used during the autonomous period. So some autonomous period, there are some rules for the making of the team prop. So it should be at least 3 inches by 3 inches by 3 inches, but it should be no more than 4 inches by 4 inches by 4 inches. This puts a restriction to make the team prop, and this team prop will be used to place on the spike mark placed on the three spike marks on the respective on near the respective team's robot. Next, next is the trap slash trapping. So preventing an opposing robot from escaping an area for an extended period of time by obstructing all paths of travel from the object or the area. So basically, not allowing another team's robot to pass through. Then next is the warning. The warning is an alert given by the referee to an individual or a group. Warnings are applied to teams and do not affect the alliance score. The warning is basically given before a penalty. Then the last is the wing. So the wing is taped off locations on the field for field flow where the human player can place pixels and drones. So this is during the you driver control period where the human player has to place pixels inside the arena. Now that concludes us with 4.3. So for this video today, we'll only be showcasing and reading till 4.3 since this covers the general topics which may come in other FTC competitions too. For video number 2, we will be going through 4.4 and 4.5, which is more specific to this year's center stage competition. So thank you guys for watching, and please make sure to check out FTC Ekam on Instagram, X, Threads, and of course on YouTube. Thank you.
And do watch the part 2 video as well to get a better understanding about the entire manual.
Thank you.